So how would you say that we handle this particular one? Are you saying that we just send the South African government a warning?
We send the South African High Commissioner in Nigeria and tell him that this is the second time this has happened. If it happens again, we're not going to take it lightly. Because, at once you try to talk in certain terms where it connotes, retaliation and all that, it's not good for the relationship anyway. Nigeria and South Africa are poles of growth in Africa, and that these people are supposed to work in concert to make sure that the country moves out from this period of poverty to a level that is acceptable by international standard. So we cannot, there will be conflicts of interest definitely, but that we shouldn't allow it to be used in such a way that these two powers could not get together and work things out for themselves and their citizens.
I'm also looking at it was saying that there's some division also in terms of how government feels this. And by government, I mean the two tiers of government have been speaking. I'll beg your pardon. Two arms of government have been speaking. The federal government has spoken. They seem to be canvassing what you're canvassing, more understanding, and they're also seeking compensation. The National Assembly, on the other hand, is also very disappointed in terms of what has been happening. And they are asking, a Senate, I think, 2 days ago, asked for the recall of our ambassador from South Africa. And they're also asking that the Zulu King be dragged to the ICC. Only just 2 days ago, Sarah dragged the Zulu King and South Africa to the ICC. Are we going to extremes? And how would you also rate the response of government?
I think the government, for me, they've done the right thing. I would not have accepted what the House said by withdrawing our ambassadors and all that.
That's the Senate.
The Senate, I won't accept that. Because if the High Commissioner is not there, where will these people run to? Who will take care and provide shelter for them? Who will give them directions as to what to do in sort of a tense-up situation? We don't do that. And if we withdraw our ambassador also, it could be a tit-for-tat issue that South Africa will also withdraw their ambassadors. Then what happens to the concept of the African Union, how we can work together and do things in common, the new idea that we've floated for a very long time? I think we have to be very careful about taking some extreme steps that will not be helpful to the country.
Yeah, what do you think also about, because some people are attributing this to what they term a hate speech, even though the Zulu King has come out to deny it and say he was misquoted. Do you think that dragging him to the ICC is a step too far?
I think for us, we had the story that was what the Zulu King said. But also, since none of us were there, there's also what we call plausible deniability, in the sense that it could be easily denied. I didn't say it in this way. This was not what I said and all that.
Which is what he's also saying.
Yes,
so he was quoted out of context.
Yes, so that's what they always say, because none of us were there. We can't get the exact word of what he said. But we have to take
Except the ones in black and white.
If we say that, then we know. And also there are some rules in certain countries that if you say things like that, you could be inciting violence, racial hatred and all that, and it could be taken to court, that in some parts of the world.
Yeah, but beyond this, beyond the xenophobia, which is the violent part of it, you've talked about, economic uncertainties, economic downturn.
Yes.
It would seem that that's a trend around the world.
It was, because I could remember in the 1960s or early 70s when Powell in England, Powell talked about the rivers of blood, that the flow of immigrants are coming to Britain in such a way that the British people will not have jobs to do and all that, and there will be conflict of a very big proportion. He said that there will be rivers flowing on the streets and all that. So we have to bear that also. It has happened even in developed economies where they could not even find statistics to show that the blacks or the migrant people were taking over jobs. But sometimes, people use that to express a particular point of view that is extreme. When Powell said that he was also removed from the Conservative administration, then he went to Ulster.
Yeah, but you find that it's beginning to shape the elections of many countries.
It does.
Even abroad, in the European Union, for instance, it's a problem. In the UK, this coming elections is going to be one of the issues. The
issue is that most of these parties, have they ever won government? They haven't. They could, they could say things and a few people will just vote for them and all that, but will they have government in a civilized country like we see?
I'm just wondering, is this something that the international community is bothered about? So do you think that
if you bother about that, we talk about freedom of speech and all that in a country that has been so vast in those ideas of freedom, liberty and all that. You go and tell people not to say what they want, but that you cannot say something that is inciting violence That's what they will always tell you. You can have the right of speech, but then you have to be careful about what you say. Like you don't either slander somebody.
But you know, Prof, some countries in Africa have withdrawn their citizens. They've evacuated them from some of those areas. You say we should send a letter or notice to South African government. Beyond that, we haven't heard of our country saying it's time to withdraw.
I think they are creating what I call cordon sanitaires. Bring them out, keep them in a place. Let's see how the situation develops. To rush them out, some people have been there for ages. They've developed, they also have kids there, they've got children there. They have their shops that has been running for a very long time. To uproot them and bring them to Nigeria to do what?
So how should we handle this in the meantime?
We just have to cool tempers and also take a very cool step towards resolving the issue. So a wrong has been done. We have to look for redress in paying cost or damages to the shops that we are doing and all that. So we have to be, we don't just rush our people out and then they'll eventually trickle back again. I doubt if that is the policy in the Nigerian government would like to adopt. We would like to address the issue next time. If these things are happening, our people should not be exposed to what they've gone through.
But already we're seeing protests in Nigeria against what's going on in South Africa. Isn't that a message to say that, look, we're not satisfied with the way both parties are handling this, either South African government as well as Nigeria, the protests we're seeing in the country at the moment?
South Africans seeing those protests will know that the pulse of the nation is beating very high, and that they should also tell their people that this thing, if it continues, let's just see if there's a tit for tat reaction. I think South Africa will lose more than Nigeria.
At what stage do we talk about compensation for those who have?
Of course, at this stage now, because some people have lost their livelihoods in South Africa. Those shops that were burnt, those people that have been injured, that's what we should do. Get the requisite representative there in South Africa to make sure that these demands are made on the South African nation so that they will know that you cannot just deal with people's life like that.
I'm asking, how do you think the government should address this?
South African
not just the South African government, any government that looks like is beginning to face some unrest that could eventually end up in violence.
If you can foresee the unrest, then eventually you could stem it, you could stop it. But this thing just came out like that. And although there were replica action in other parts of the country and all that, but at once you deal with the first one, then you do it up something. I think the first, short-term fixes and long-term strategies of dealing with it. Short-term, you police these areas in such a way that it does not exploit what I mean. Long-term, you set in process that actions like that will not be accepted by the South African government, and the penalty will be so stiff that people will not go against doing it.
2008 and 2015, it's not such a long time, it's 7 years.
7 years is quite a long time in politics, and in terms of people's life also it's long.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the South African government should have known that it could happen again.
They dealt with it and felt that, it was over. But they don't realize that it's going to be cyclical, that once in a while it turn up again. I think this will be an eye-opener to them. I believe that well-meaning people will also deal with it in such a way that, yes, this is the last time we're going to accept it. Let's see what the South African government will put in place in their countries so that this thing does not spill over again.
But let's take a quick break so that we can also bring some more visuals to you. But we'll do that when we return in just a moment. Join us again.